Hi, and welcome to Two Guys Philosophise with Sean Blake and Peter Wise. This episode is called The Purpose of Life, but we also sidetrack onto things like the ancient alien theory, psychopaths, and Christmas, plus much more. Enjoy, and please subscribe.
Hello everyone, welcome to our podcast.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening or good night.
Wherever you may be.
Okay, so what we've got planned for you today is we wanted to talk about something about the purpose of life, whether or not there is a purpose of life. We wanted to talk about identity and identity crises. We wanted to talk about the power of thought. We just basically wanted to talk about the usual stuff that we do.
Hodgepodge of unusual stuff we chat about. Yeah.
Definitely, and probably contradict ourselves in what
all the time
in previous podcasts. So the first thing is
the proof is in the podcast.
Yeah. The proof is in the podcast. The first thing for me is, I've been struggling for a long time as to whether or not there's a purpose to life. Because if there's no purpose to life, then what the fuck am I doing trying to do things, trying to achieve things, trying to get things, trying to make a name for myself, become popular, if there's absolutely no purpose to life. If there is a purpose to life, it could be attributed to a God. I'm not a believer in God. So I've always had a problem with this. Even in the absence of a God, there can be a purpose to life in that we are evolving towards something, that we have something to do, that we do have a destination, but we just don't know what it is yet, and we don't know what road to take.
So can I just dissect?
Absolutely.
Just kind of one thing at a time.
Dissect me.
So whoever said that there should be a purpose in your life? What apart from your parents telling you that you should be? Why should there be a purpose in your life? For what reason? You're going to die.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like it's a serious thing at all. I don't think personally that there is a goal. I think it's a journey.
Yes, I do. I do agree with that.
Yeah. So purpose. I think you can give yourself a purpose to feel important, to maybe support your ego state. But do we need to have purpose?
Well,
I think to get out of bed, we're probably genetically programmed to want to do things and want to achieve things. But after you reach a certain age, when you've done all of that and you've done the business and the corporate and everything, we're at a different place now.
Yeah, but I'm talking also about perhaps the purpose is to try and be the best possible person you can be, given whatever you.
Okay, so given you're going to die, okay, and given that you know that there is a thing called cause and effect, just for those two bits of information, you should know that if you treat your fellow person away, he's going to treat you in exactly the same way. So. Yeah, I don't think you need gods and deities and spirits.
No, not necessarily. But I'm also asking the question of what is it that makes a person fulfilled in life? You know what I mean? Some people will say, I feel my gut feeling to write a book, for example, or something like that. Answer me. Sean's back into brain fog mode. But yeah, that's it. I mean, morally and ethically to be the best possible person you can, because it makes you happy.
Is there anything else to do in this life? Because if it's going to end, and if you can't take anything with you except your lessons and your new energy and your new vibration that you've come out of this experience with. Why should we worry? About purpose. Why should we worry about becoming anything? The thing should be, should make your life, your existence as comfortable as I possibly can, and in return you'll make my life as comfortable as possible. It's like
but that's the purpose.
It's an agreement, yeah.
That's the purpose, for you to make me happy and me to make you happy.
Yeah, I think that the purpose of
How's
this
that
whole
gonna
thing
work?
is for us to all interact. I mean, you have the choice of making people happy or sad.
Okay. The word interact there is something I think that we've lost as a species. We don't interact with we interact with each other on our phones and our computers and so on and so forth, but we've actually become alienated from each other. We've actually become alienated from ourselves. Let me explain what I mean by that. A baby will, is very attached to itself, will express itself, will cry, will scream. But as you grow older, you learn to sort of hide all these things. People say, "How are you?" and you say, "Fine," when you're not fine. You bluff.
Well, they say
you kind of bluff your way through life, and you're not being real. You're not being true to yourself. You're not saying what you really want to say to that person, which, I really want to say to you, just shut the fuck up, you're an idiot, stop talking to me, when I just sit there and go, that's interesting. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So we become like completely lost in that we don't know what ourselves are.
So when you're talking about purpose, you're not talking about becoming a doctor or becoming a lawyer or having
I'm talking about on all levels.
On a wider scale.
Yeah, but on all levels as well.
But then still on every scale, what is there to do in this world except make people unhappy or make them happy?
What is there to do? Well, there's a lot of things to do. Make podcasts.
And it's making people happy, or it's making
Well,
them
we hope.
unhappy. I know we'll find out in the comments.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is no. At the end of the day, you're going to leave this, whatever it may be, a simulation or a reality or a consciousness bubble, or whatever. We're going to leave this. I mean, so why not just make it as comfortable as we can for everyone else, and in return, they'll make it as comfortable.
I mean, that's all very well, but that's not necessarily...
That's utopian.
It's not how it happens, I mean, you help somebody else and they'll stab you in the back and steal your money. That's real life.
But is that not the point? Is it not the point for you to not be disillusioned at the world because that's happened to you so many times? You understand?
Okay.
So what I'm saying is maybe the purpose of life is not all these problems, okay? Maybe the purpose of life is just to be. And in just being, things will pop up, and thereby you will be measured. The way you deal with that, you will be measured as a soul or a man or whatever.
I mean, I agree with you. Plenty of the ancient philosophers used to say that the purpose of life is just to be. You don't really need to do anything except eat basic food and shelter. And you need nothing more than that. But in this Western world, things are absolutely mad, as we all know. I mean, I could ask the question: are we programmed, either before we're born, to be something or do something, or are we programmed as we grow up through our environment and through the information we take in to make us think that we have to do this and we have to do that?
Okay, so I'm going to bring in a little bit of conspiracy theory here.
Okay.
So for some reason, the human being is wired to want to have a purpose, to want to achieve things, to want to work.
Right.
On top of that, our bodies are designed to deteriorate if we don't work.
Right.
All right. Now there is the Anunnaki theory, where the Anunnaki, who were gods from somewhere else, came down and started doing genetic experiments with us.
Okay.
Which is one of the conspiracy theories about how we jumped in evolution.
Basically, the ancient aliens.
Yeah, the ancient aliens were like kind of like teaching us and so on. But so
I mean, you're saying that you think that.
So could we have been genetically modified to have this body that needs to work. Because if I wanted to create, if I was an advanced civilization and I wanted to create a workforce, I would create them with the desire and the will, if not the compulsion, to achieve.
Right.
Or to get better, or to do better. Because if I have an ape digging my mine,
Yes.
okay, it's, you know,
But then how are human beings...
Humans are more controllable. They're conscious. So being conscious means they can be affected.
So how are we, you're making out as if we're kind of slaves to the aliens.
Well, that's one. I mean, that's one of the. It's ridiculous, but I mean, that's one of the theories. I mean, it
definitely.
has, you know, I mean, it has, in my mind, been debunked.
Yeah.
About 100 times.
Well, Eric von
You know.
Daniken was the first one to sort of go public in a big way.
Well, Eric von Daniken. Oh, look. Okay, so this.
And a lot of people slag him off, but he's a clever bloke.
He was a clever bloke, yeah, but he got UFO sickness. If you ever Google Earth, actually please do this, because when you see the NASCAR lines in pictures, and so it all looks very impressive. It looks absolutely fantastically impressive. But if you're in actuality flying over that, you actually don't see that at all. It's all those pictures you see are enhanced, so that you can see those spiders and whatever.
Right.
If you go to Google Maps and then you go to the NASCAR plains and then you go to Street View, okay,
Yeah.
you can actually see the surface.
Yeah.
And it's literally all it is sand that's been moved away. It's
Yes,
dust that's
yes,
been moved
yes,
away.
yes,
That's
yes.
all it is. It's
Yeah.
no.
It's not aliens.
It's not a.
Sorry.
You know, yeah.
Yeah. And the Earth is not flat. Sorry.
or curved, or in a globe, or in a globe.
I must put in our disclaimer here that, you know, whatever we talk about, we don't intend to offend anyone at any time.
The last thing we want to do.
We're just having a laugh, and we're just chatting about things which get curiouser and curiouser as we go along.
The more answers you seem to find, the more questions seem to pop up. So it seems to be a never-ending carousel. An interesting one, but still never-ending.
Look, what I have difficulty with is the subject of the I. When I say I am Peter, what is or who is or what is the I that is saying I am Peter? When I say I have a left hand, what is the I that is behind that? So I think that's one of the most important things that we need to find out, because we are being we are being controlled by. I'll tell you what. Okay, let's do a little experiment for our folks.
All right, I'm up for it.
Okay, so for those of you who are listening rather than watching, I will explain what I'm doing as I go along. I'm sitting opposite Sean here, okay? And what I want to do now with you, Sean, is this. I want to exchange body parts one by one. Okay. So, let's first start by exchanging our brains. So, I give you my brain, you give me your brain.
Yeah.
Have you become me?
Oh my God. Okay.
Right. So,
all right. I used to do a different kind of mind experiment. Okay, but so I'm trying to link the two, and that is if I chopped my leg off and I was still here, and I chopped that leg and I kept chopping things off, where would I eventually be? So taking that scenario, if I did chop, that would mean that my consciousness was an individual thing that could be slotted into something else, into a machine. So, just based on that logic, I think I would be me in your body. I don't think I would be you. I wouldn't pick up your consciousness.
So you're saying to me, just by having my brain, you would become me. But consciousness doesn't live in the brain. Thoughts don't live in the brain. Creative ideas don't live in the brain.
I believe consciousness is the anchor to, the brain is the anchor to consciousness.
Yeah, but you wouldn't. You would have my brain with my thoughts, my musical abilities, and this kind of thing.
So it would just be Peter in my body. I would just be Sean in Peter's body.
So let's go a step further. Let's exchange.
Because your brain is the well, we assume your brain is the thing that is picking up consciousness.
Well, this is the first thing. First of all, your brain is obviously not just in your head; it's attached to every part of your body through your nerves. So if I give you all my internal organs and nervous system, and I give them to you, and you give me yours, are you then me?
No, because I have given you all the wiring, but I haven't given you the CPU.
Okay, so what you're saying, so what we're basically getting at is, we make an analogy like with a car. I'm giving you bits of my car, and you're giving me bits of your car, but it's the driver of the car there's a problem there. There's a question there that needs to be answered. Because we can completely exchange all our material, physical body parts, but will you then be me looking at you, and will I be you looking at me? You know, how does it work? It's quite a mindfuck, to be honest. And
it is a huge mindfuck if you think about it in this way. You might not be perceiving the world at all like I'm perceiving the world.
Yes, that's true.
So I might pop into your structure that you have and be totally like, what is this? You know, my green was green, but your green is purple.
Yes.
You know, so I'm like,
yeah.
Consciousness. They wanting to download consciousness into computers, onto hard drives.
They want to. I have to repeat that. They want to download consciousness
onto a hard drive. They want to be able to download your consciousness, your you. The theory is if they take everything they know about you,
right?
Okay, everything that is to be known about you. Brain fog.
Okay, so they're gonna everything, all the information they know about you, and plus your consciousness. And put it onto a hard drive so that they can upload it to your body when it's resurrected.
So what you could do essentially is then take that program, that stiffy or whatever, and stick it into a clone or whatever, and that would.
Okay.
Now, I don't. You see, my question to myself has been, since I've done the DNA testing and since I've sold like my DNA rights to absolutely everyone, chances are when cloning happens I'm going to be one of those that is going to be like a road worker. He's going to clone me. Okay.
Well,
so what consciousness in 200 years time, if they do clone me, who will I be? Well, because my consciousness I feel would have moved on.
Well, this is a big question. I mean, look, we said before, I believe that consciousness, and many great scientists have said the same thing, and I agree with them, that consciousness is the fundamental source from which this universe is built. Consciousness expresses itself through human beings. Consciousness expresses itself through stars and planets and galaxies. But only through through a human being can consciousness express and observe and know itself from the point of view of a material human being. So consciousness has been around forever. Get used to that fact. It's going to be around forever, and it's just stopped momentarily to be me for a while, and then it moves on. So I suppose I could say from that I don't really have a purpose in life. I don't really have a purpose in life. Well, I do feel the need to do things to make me happy, but I don't know what they are, because I've done a lot of things, and can I say I've had happy moments, I've had happy times, but this peaceful, blissful nirvana state where nothing worries me, you know, I don't know what that's like, you know.
Well, that's because you've had 40 odd years of programming never ever to be in that state. It takes a couple of years to overcome that programming, I would think. Yeah, very much so. But our purpose. Why do we need purpose? I mean, why does the world need us to have a purpose?
I don't think it does. That's the thing. But I'm still on the fence about this.
But it
because
does, because if we didn't have a purpose, there would be no lawyers, there would be no policemen, there would be no shop owners, there would be no...
Yeah, but that can't be the purpose of humanity. I mean, just to sort of...
to have purpose is to have purpose in this
live.
life, is to live. I mean, so whatever that purpose you may feel it is, it probably isn't in reality the real purpose that you're supposed to be here for, but you're going to...
Well, look, I mean, somebody like Albert Einstein, for example, who had a huge, a great brain, a brilliant man. I mean, his purpose to invent this general theory of relativity and everything else that all the other scientific theories that he came up with. Was that his purpose?
Well, I think it would have. I think that information at that time was primed to come out, whether it came out with by Einstein or Tesla or whoever. It is information that needs to be introduced into this, what I like to call simulation, to progress the simulation.
So, okay, I agree with you there. I would just say, yeah, so it's time now for consciousness and conscious awareness in human beings to expand to the point where we, can see through subatomic particles. We can do weird experiments with light waves and photons that shows that two things can be in the same place at the same time, or that things can travel backwards in time at the micro level, I should admit. This is, I've used this phrase before, evolving consciousness, and maybe this is our purpose, just to be here for a few years so that the grand consciousness of everything can just keep expanding and progressing and, I don't know. It sounds like I'm talking shit. I probably am.
The most amazing thing about doing this podcast for me has been like watching it back and going, oh my God, did you really say that? Did you really just say that?
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. It's really interesting to be in this situation and doing this.
The other thing is what comes into the equation is our thoughts that we have. So in that little experiment we did, you had my brain, therefore you had my thoughts. I would have imagined. You know what I mean? So there could be an argument to say at that point you actually did become me or a greater part of me. But what I want to know is... So you say
because of the memories, your memories...
No, I'm not saying that, because memories are not in the brain. Memories, I've said before...
That's what I was going to say, they're holographic.
They're stored elsewhere. Yeah. Now I think I've had a brain fog. I was going to say, this happens all the time. I don't know why. We're thinking too hard. What I was going to ask was, how much of this world do we actually create with our thoughts?
Everything.
Okay, there was this.
So yeah, to an extent. So if you can imagine, this is how I imagine reality to be. All right, there is a blueprint. All right.
Right.
And that blueprint says that there are certain parameters and certain limits and certain things that the universe will abide by. It's pretty much like going to a carnival. All the rides are like set up already. Yeah. Okay. You go and you pay your ticket. You go into the carnival and you choose which rides you want to take. But there is a basic structure. I think there is a basic blueprint, and you can go into that structure, and you can have fun inside that structure, inside that blueprint, inside that construct.
Right.
So you as a spirit can have fun in that playground.
Okay. So the world's a playground.
Like really strange.
Yeah, because you're too far away from the microphone.
Here we go.
Nobody can hear you.
Can hear my insightful information.
Nobody gives a damn anyway.
Nothing, yeah.
But I mean, okay. So what about? Let's bring it down a bit. What about the power of the brain and thoughts and things like this? I mean, I do believe that thoughts come into the brain. I mean, that's a common. I suddenly had this very interesting thought that came into my head. So if you're saying that, where did it come from? So how do our thoughts create our reality. There was something we were talking about before about if you think too much, you're missing out on actually what's really out there. And I suppose that, the way I took it was to be alluding to something like if you're watching a TV program or a movie, you can sit and watch it for an hour and then realise you haven't actually noticed anything that's going on the TV because your head has been so full of other thoughts.
Yeah, you're kind of zoned out to that.
So,
I think that there are two types of thoughts. I think there are thoughts that we have to think. Okay, and then there are thoughts that come naturally.
Right. Can you explain that first?
I have to think about reformatting my computer. I have to consciously think about doing that. So that is a thought process. But do I have to think about breathing? No, not really. That just happens kind of automatically. Do I have to think about... there are a lot of things that I don't have to think about that I do during the day, like driving from place to place.
That's just it. You know, we can actually get driving is a good example. You can, I'm sure some of you can relate to this who drive. You suddenly find yourself in a place in the motorway or in the road, and you think, "Where the hell am I?" Or I don't know. Maybe that's just my weird brain. But you talked before. You said our brains are wired to work. You talked a bit about the Anunnaki, the ancient aliens who came around, and the theory is they fiddled with our DNA, as far as I understand.
To create a workforce to dig gold, because their planet Nibiru, they have a climate control system which uses gold flakes to keep the heat in to their wandering planet.
Really?
So every time their planet wanders past us, they come down, mine gold, go back up. That's the theory. That's the theory. Okay. Now, I've got to ask you, because look, I don't believe this at all. Like I said,
I'm glad you said I don't believe this.
I'm just giving you info that I've come. I don't believe it at all because, first of all, Earth is not the only place that has freaking gold.
Right.
All right. Okay. And if you're a civilization advanced enough to create nanoparticle gold thingamajigs to control your climate, you're clever enough to make gold. I mean, we're basically nearly doing it.
The alchemists.
The alchemists. So why? Why the whole thing about us being a slave race and whatever is very interesting in that we're designed to work, yes, and we're designed to have ambition and things like that. But no, I don't think it was the Anunnaki who.
Okay. Well, let's say some force did program us. Okay. I mean, I would want to know what or who that was, obviously. But the thing is, the question I want to ask is, why are we so-called evolving? Now, this word evolution...
Entropy.
It just... Yeah, well, I was going to say, it just means nothing more than change.
Yeah.
We're changing from one being to another and another. And there'll be, human beings will evolve into a Homo sapiens, brilliant, whatever, or the next line of sapiens or something like that. So, what you say the reason we're evolving is because of entropy. That means
there's nothing else. There's nothing else to do. We have to evolve and adapt to the environment we're in. Otherwise, we'll die. And our environment is constantly changing.
No, I disagree because we created our environment in the very beginning when our brains first became self-aware of their own consciousness, and the first man said, "What am I?" or "Who am I?" We've made conscious choices to build huts, to use caves, to use stools. Then we went to the Bronze Age and the Iron Age, and we've created all of these things, and we've made them out of our choice. I mean, that's not evolving. The material body evolving that's not consciousness evolving. I don't know what that is. Some people will call that progress. In order that we can have the great mathematicians and the great knowledge that we do of the universe today. But why? Why do we need the great knowledge of the universe? We don't. We don't need to know anything that's happening outside our immediate vicinity, unless it's an emergency. And the universe, believe me, my friends, is not an emergency, it's a universe.
It's a universe. Yeah,
Why do we want to know about the universe? Why? Because you said we've been programmed.
There is an interesting theory that we haven't seen aliens, and aliens aren't interested in space travel or anything like that.
Yeah.
Particularly for that reason.
What, that we are useless or what? Sorry? I mean, I heard that, that there's very, very, not very likely, there is almost certainly definitely, although we haven't found them yet, other life forms out in the universe. And there was a question, I think the one you were referring to is then why haven't they contacted us over all these 40 billion years?
Where I was going with it is what are the chances that all civilizations, all aliens are motivated to travel or motivated to explore?
Exactly.
Or motivated to go out?
Well, that's
motivated
exactly.
to... Maybe there is a civilization out there who have decided to go inward. And they're all living in little pods right now, never leaving them and having mental experiences. Maybe, why do we have to anthropomorphize, is that right? Everything, we have to make them human. We have to make it human.
You see, that to me is very interesting indeed, because you talk there for a moment about looking inward. And I think, that's the place to go.
That's the universe in you.
We're so distracted by everything in our daily lives. We don't actually have time to stop and think about these greater questions like, what am I? We don't have time to reflect on what's going inside ourselves. Like I said before, we've become alienated from ourselves. In fact, the very word self is an attachment. If you think you've got a self, you've got an attachment. And attachments, as far as I understand, are not good things. Don't become attached to things. See what I mean?
I do, but I'm going to counter that because what is that word I wrote there?
He can't read his own handwriting.
I don't have my glasses with me.
Just trying to read his own handwriting.
What did I say there?
Alvanation, solo.
It was
alienation.
Alienation. There we go. Alienation of self.
What a twat.
Okay, yeah, what a twat. I know it's awful. And having said that, I've now totally forgotten why I wanted to talk about alienation.
Okay, well look,
I'll get back to it. Go for it.
I mean, this is now becoming more and more apparent. Okay, so we've spent a few thousand years finding out how to use tools, how to build societies and all of this kind of stuff, how to improve on technology, and we've always been looking out there. We've got telescopes or whatever, but we refrain to look in here. And I don't mean by using a microscope to see your smallest cell. I mean to find that place of peace, which I believe is our due. I believe we are here on this earth to try and find as peaceful life as possible in the best way that we know how. So I think if that's, if any purpose, that's the purpose.
Yeah. To go back to the point that I was going to say that I totally gave up on, it was the alienation. You were saying, we're going through a period of alienation of self. Okay.
Yes.
I agree with you. We are, but I think we are going through a period of being selfish.
Well, ultimately people are all selfish?
Yeah, but we are incredibly selfish these days.
I just want to quantify that.
Yeah.
People are selfish underneath it all. Even if you're doing a really good act, underneath it all, it's going to make you feel good as well. And that's where the selfish. Maybe I shouldn't have said that at all. Scratch that. Rewind.
No, that was interesting. Why scratch that?
Okay.
Unpack that.
Because there's a lot of good, very selfless people out there who will work only for others. But nevertheless, that's what drives them. That's their purpose, if you like.
Okay, but is it not their excuse too? Because look,
their excuse.
Yes, I don't believe that anyone who died. I'm sorry, this is going to sound so wrong, and I don't want to offend anyone, but if you are a charity worker, if you are doing amazing things for people and not charging them money, if you are doing things altruistically, why are you doing those things that way? To make yourself feel better. It's not to make the world a better place. It's to make sure that everyone else around you thinks that you're this wonderful person. So again, it's this ego inflating thing. So I think everything we do in our lives, as much as we'd like to say, I feed the poor and I house the homeless, you're doing that to make yourself feel better. Okay. Essentially, you're not doing it to make the homeless person feel better.
But then, is that not
it's a purpose?
Just a basic purpose. Purpose. Life is here so we can make ourselves feel better. But the thing is, I think we've gone wrong because we've become slaves to money, as you all know. And in order to make ourselves feel better, I'm just looking at this camera here, and I think it's slowly tilting downwards. But we'll keep going anyway. So, I mean, is this purpose of life to feel better about things? And if it is, then I think we're going the wrong way about it, or we've come to the point in our history where we have to say building more things. Having more cities, having more tech is not going to actually improve. I mean, when you, for example, upgrade your phone or update it doesn't actually upgrade. It just changes everything. All the icons change shape and picture and design. You know what I mean? It's all a load of bullshit, and we're all caught in the middle of it. You know?
Yeah.
I'm getting it wrong.
Say the first bit of what you said again, because you tend to like give 4 different things that I want to respond to, okay, and then by the end of the 4th one I've forgotten the first one, but
I can't. You see,
I think we are our survival mechanism is to be selfish.
Our survival mechanism, but that is Richard Dawkins and the selfish gene. Yes, I agree with that.
Okay.
But we have now come to the point where, because of our huge brains, we are able to override our basic survival instincts.
Are we?
I think we are. Yes, I think we're growing. At least we're growing to that point.
90% of people out there living in fear, constant fear all the time.
You just threw that statistic out there, man. I don't think 90. Maybe it's just you and me that are living in fear.
92.
Everyone else is really happy.
92.5% of statistics are made up right on the spot. Okay. But there's a great amount of people, out there, I would imagine.
There are people out there who are unhappy. There are people out there who are happy. But the thing is, these are not constant states of being. These are only temporary emotional states of being. Mm-hmm. And in fact, our emotions cause us a hell of a lot of problems, because we have this business of real emotions and false emotions. Like a false emotion is when you feel guilty about something that you shouldn't feel guilty about at all, yet you do still feel guilty and you don't know why. So our emotions screw us up. Our brain is, you said earlier, our brains are wired to work. I was wondering, what are they wired to work towards?
Well, perhaps it
might be to manage our emotions. So you say it's our brains and our bodies that are wired to work.
Look, if you don't exercise, your body deteriorates. It's the same as if you don't exercise your brain, it deteriorates.
So how do you exercise your brain?
By doing things like what we're doing now, having a conversation, stretching the limits of what we can understand, and maybe going over those limits and seeming like absolute idiots, and coming back.
But wouldn't that imply deep thought? And isn't deep thought something we're trying to get away from? Isn't the spiritual axiom is empty your mind
for half an hour? not for the rest.
Right. And I was thinking,
not for the whole of your life. Yeah.
Oh right, only for half an hour. Well, I think I can I can manage half an hour.
Yeah, and the side effect of that half an hour is that you're in more of a blissful state. Yeah. But you can't walk around like not thinking. I actually have done that experiment for a week. I did that experiment where you just absolutely accept absolutely everything. You don't think about it. Everything is a yes, nothing is a no, and you just go with the flow.
What's it like not to think?
And it's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. So I don't, because you don't have any control over your life then. You don't have any decision making, which some spiritual mystic people would say is where you need to be, in a place where you don't.
But it's surely, I mean, I'm being challenging now, but how is it possible not to think?
Well, that's the challenge. I mean, that's the challenge. That try not to think about things. Try not to think.
But that's like saying try not to think of a pink elephant. The first thing you think of is a pink elephant.
It's a pink elephant.
So you can't say try not to think. It just has to be, I don't know, I want to be there. I want to be in this wonderful place of peace and quiet and happiness. That's what.
Yes, but I want to think about it. I want to be here, but I still want to have the capability of playing with things in my mind and thinking about things, and I don't want to become a zombie.
So you're saying you're I think this is maybe where we differ. You're saying you've come to a greater acceptance of all the what you term bad things or negative things that have happened to you in your life, whereas I just think, why the fuck did all those nasty things happen to me? And I wish they hadn't. But then again, you can't live your life in retrospect. If those things in my past hadn't happened to me, I might be a totally different person today. I might not be alive today. Who knows? Yeah. Who knows? I mean, it's weird, really. When we're born into this body from a previous form of consciousness and vibration that existed before us, when we're born into this body, we have so many paths open to us. I mean, some more than others, obviously, but I'm talking about paths of thought, paths of life, where we can go. Those of us who are, who have opinions on certain things, where we can go, what we can do, how we can become fulfilled. We have. I mean, I come from quite, a reasonably privileged background, and I've had a lot of options in my life. And, talking about it live now and thinking on my feet, it's difficult for me to accept that there are people in the world who don't have food to eat. I mean, what's the purpose? Okay. Why did the Anunnaki, the ancient aliens, come down and program half of the world to be brilliant and the other half to be, working?
Okay,
manual labour.
Okay, but you're going to get into the mythology of that. So I'm just going to quickly skim through it in like 2 seconds flat. Okay, there was an argument. So there was Enlil, which is the one brother, the one prince, and then there was Enki, which is the other prince of the Anunnaki. Right now, I think it was Enlil decided that humans, the way that they were created, they were very like workforce or whatever, but they didn't have any like brains. They couldn't think for themselves. They couldn't work out problems and stuff like that. So he genetically engineered humans to have that. Now the other brother didn't agree with that. Okay, so there was this big like schism like between the two brothers.
I was just going to ask a question. Why does this sound so much like a fairy tale?
How much more of a fairy tale in the Bible?
Oh no, it's definitely.
It's a lot more believable to me actually than a lot of stuff in the Bible. Okay.
We're actually only a few days away from Christmas, and Sean and I were chatting before about the roots of where all these Christmas traditions and everything came from. What was it you just mentioned?
Saturnalia. Yeah.
Saturnalia was the original. A little bit.
No, it wasn't really the original. That was also stolen from the pagans. So the Romans stole that holiday from the pagans. so the pagans used to have a feast, a festival where it was kind of a anything goes, have fun, get drunk, run off with somebody else's like life, everything was allowed. It was all about breaking social norms and expanding consciousness, and the same things that we do today at trance parties, I would imagine.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, you said this. I mean, the Roman festival,
yes,
which was called what? Was slaves became masters became slaves.
Yeah. So the slaves brought the religion to the Romans. Okay,
right.
The Dianic religions to the Romans. Now Saturnalia is all about Saturn. Okay,
right.
And Saturn is all about love and no restrictions and nothing's taboo, everything's okay. So it was based around that Dianic energy of Saturn.
Right.
All right.
I don't know what you mean by that at all. The Dianic energy of Saturn.
Okay, so there were Dianic religions way before there were Christian understandings or Roman
or
religions
Jewish,
or Jewish or Muslims
or anyone.
And they were feminine-based religions. They were female-based religions.
Okay.
They were called the Dianic religions.
Okay.
They believed, in the beginning, in the goddess Diana. Okay, which is what they called the Dianic.
Right.
Now, the Oracle of Delphi,
yes,
was one of them.
Okay, you've mentioned her before. I didn't know who she was.
Yeah. So that's kind of how that fits in.
Right. And what about all these Christmas traditions that we go through? I mean, how much are they related to things that happened previously? Saint Nicholas and
in our modern day, we have stolen from a lot of traditions, and one of the traditions that we've stolen from is the old pagan Nordic type celebration, which happened around about this time,
right,
where everyone would gather at a certain place, and it would be basically like a trance party. There would be drumming and people would be doing things and whatever. But the purpose of the whole thing was to be connected to spirit,
right,
to get guidance for the next year, to understand what was happening. So what would happen is they would feed reindeer magic mushrooms.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Okay.
Because the magic mushrooms in that area, Sweden or wherever, are actually, they use fly agaric, which is the mushroom that's red and white,
white
dots on it. So that's where the whole symbology of Santa Claus came from, is that the mushroom. And if you look at the mushroom, it looks like a man in a jolly old...
So Santa Claus is a mushroom. The whole tradition came from those hallucinogenic mushrooms.
So
that's unbelievable.
So what would happen is they would feed these reindeer all these magic mushrooms, which contained a lot of bufotenin. Now, bufotenin gives you a terrible trip. It's a nightmare trip. It's horrible. But what happens if you give the magic mushrooms to a reindeer, the reindeer's body detoxifies of all the bufotenins, and it wheezes out just pure psilocybin.
You're going to tell me they drank...
So what they did was they actually lay under reindeers and they drank their urine because it was purified psilocybin. And after 10 minutes of lying there drinking psilocybin urine, of course that darn fucking reindeer is going to start floating.
Right, so...
And of course there's going to be a bright red nose, because you're hallucinating balls.
I mean, I think, that's not a widely known theory and would fall under the heading of esoteric knowledge, perhaps. But yes, I've actually come across that before. I think together with you, in that the whole image of Santa Claus. I don't know about the tree, though. Do you know anything about the Christmas tree?
Yes, the tree worked like this. So when you came to this festival, you would come from an area that other people didn't come from. So if I could explain to you, some people would come from 1,000 kilometers from the east, and other people would come from 1,000 kilometers from the west. And there are different things that you can buy in the east and that you can get in the west. So they'd all come together at this one place, and they would bring with them something from their area, whether it be pottery or a knife or a necklace or whatever, and they would hang these on trees, and they would be gifts. So you would take one of these gifts, whatever you needed. If you were a guy that needed a knife and there was one hanging on a tree, you took that knife and you put back whatever you had to offer. Whether if you were a shaman, it would probably be a bag of
yes,
some shaman stuff.
Okay.
So that's where the tree thing.
It's fascinating. So I mean, it all kind of fits together nicely. I mean, obviously, all customs and rituals have their roots, and probably much further back than we even realise. And even Sean has said, talking about this correlation between the image of Santa Claus and a magic mushroom festival that held in pagan times. But another question that intrigues me is, okay, so we're not sure whether or not we're here for a purpose yet. You say, what was you saying?
I say we're not here for a purpose.
Sean says
I
no.
definitively say that we are not here for a purpose. Your only purpose is to be. You're part of a machine. Just be part of that machine.
How can we get out?
That's all that you are required to do. It's just to be.
So how can we, now that we've built up all these huge cities and all this civilization, how can we now almost go, not going backwards, but how can we move away from this material lifestyle to a more spiritual lifestyle? What do we have to do? What do I have to do on a daily basis? I mean, is it a question of just learning to meditate slowly, or?
Well, okay, so like any other muscle, the spiritual muscle has to be exercised as well.
The spiritual muscle, there you go. I don't know where that is in my body, and I dread to think, but anyway.
But it's an interesting idea. But your spiritual muscle needs to be exercised.
How do you exercise a spirit? Actually, I do understand that. I mean, I think exercising a spiritual muscle, you would probably need to just think nice thoughts and have good intentions.
Yeah,
affirmations.
Change your thought.
Be a nice person. Be an upright person.
And that's, you'll get respect from other people. Which
unfortunately, there are some very nasty people in this world. You know what I mean? And I still don't know. The question has been asked so many times: why does God create psychopaths? Psychopaths, I don't know if it can be classified as an illness as such. It's definitely something going wrong in the brain. But I also believe that people are prone to becoming psychopaths, and according to their lifestyles, becoming a psychopath might be something in our genes, that we all have the propensity to become a psychopath. And if the first few years of our life are that bad, we will actually turn into this psychopath, which is a completely selfish and unempathetic person who doesn't care about anything or anyone else.
So, psychopaths, all right? Psychopaths were, they did a census, I think, in 1960. Again, me on numbers, just take my word for it. They did a test.
Don't take his word for anything.
On psychopathy. And it has increased substantially till today. It hasn't remained that there's more, which leads me to think either we're becoming more aware of them or we're creating them. And I would think of those two options, the easier one, the default one, is that we're creating them. We're creating them because what are corporates? Corporates are psychopaths.
Corporates are psychopaths.
If they did you can do it yourself. If you take the psychopath questionnaire and you apply it to a corporation, they will be 30 out of 30 psychopath. So you're working in this environment that doesn't foster care or empathy. Okay. You're also coming from an environment that doesn't foster care and empathy. School. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that all of us have that switch to become psychopathic or whatever, but I think that a lot more people's switches are being switched now because we're in this society where if I want to get ahead, I'm going to have to make sure 200 people lose their jobs.
Yeah.
200 people with kids, 200 people with futures, 200 people with... Now, people are forced daily to make decisions like that. How do you do that?
You know what, Sean? I think, psychopathy is a clinic, is a named...
There's a name,
clinical,
it's a box.
It's a named, it's a named clinical condition. But I think there's also different levels of psychopathy, and I think you're right. I think more and more people are getting angry these days, feeling helpless, feeling desperate, feeling, I don't know, feeling upset, annoyed, frustrated at the way the world is going because their lives are not going according to their plans, or because they really, really struggle. And let's face it, most of the people on this planet do struggle to make ends meet and are full of worries and little tribulations and little problems.
Yeah.
So I think, that could lead to the human race becoming a very angry species indeed, and that does not bode too well for our future.
But I think it's not a self-sustaining social place to be at, and I think eventually it will disintegrate, because to be sociopathic and to be selfish, that limit of self, it has a limit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At some point, it has to break down and get down to the masses.
I'm hoping it will disintegrate into people thinking more along the lines, instead of "I want what you have," instead
I
of
want us all to have
no, I want what I have. I think people definitely are beginning to be open to this kind of spirituality, if you want to use that word. More people are starting to look inwards, to look at themselves, to meditate, to contemplate on the meaning of self, on the meaning of the word I, the one letter I, what that is, what that's all about. And we're getting used to the idea of an eternal consciousness, even in science circles. So, but we've spoken quite a bit. I think we've covered everything from the purpose of life to Christmas and psychopaths.
And brain fogs and
everything else.
And everything else.
So if you want to sign off, or if there's anything else.
Well, I mean, I could sit here and chat all day, but I suppose we have to actually end it at some stage. So let's do that. Call it a day. It's a day. Cheers, folks. It's been nice having you around.
Take care, guys.
Check you next one.
Bye now.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll catch you next time. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, and you all have a lovely day.